Welcome to the Greg Bennett Show. I'm your host, Greg Bennett. And today, I have my beautiful bride, my wonderful wife, Laura Bennett, join me in the studio to discuss and celebrate the 100+ episodes of the Greg Bennett Show. It's been an extraordinary journey. We go through that journey. We dissect some of my favorite interviews and what I took away from many of them. And we also sort of look at some of my favorite questions that I've asked, and we ask ourselves those same questions. It's a lot of fun. We do go off on tangents a little bit, but I think there's a lot of learning and inspiration in this one as well. Laura, when you actually can get her to sit down and think and talk quietly without the kids distracting, has so many wonderful pieces of advice. So I think you'd really do yourself a favor if you listen to this one. I really get a lot from Laura every time I have these conversations. Now, a few bits of housekeeping before we go on. Firstly, yes, I want to thank you so much for listening and supporting the show. It means the world to me. If you do want to support the show, you can do it by simply sharing it on your social platforms or sharing it with your family and friends. That really does me a huge favor to get the word out. I truly appreciate it. If you have any follow-up questions for me, I am on the platform. Go to AnyQuestion.com. You can sign up there. You can go on and you can ask me any questions, any follow-up questions to guests. Many of my guests are actually on the platform, including Jan Frodeno, Lucy Charles Barkley, Nino Schurter, Kate Courtney. A lot of them are already on there. They're there and accessible to answer any questions that you do have. It's a great platform, so go check it out. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. I truly did just enjoy this hour and a half of sitting with Laura. But for now, remember, success comes to those who endure just one moment longer. All right, today my beautiful bride is back in the studio. We are here to celebrate, the year and the 100+ episodes, or 2 years of the podcast. Now, a quick recap on Laura. She's a multiple US Olympic triathlete, 4-time World Championship medalist, and 4-time US national champion. She's an NCAA championship winning swimmer from SMU, Southern Methodist University, and she spent almost 20 years at the top of the sport of triathlon as a professional. She spent some time as world number 1 ranked athlete. I don't know if it was weeks or months, and she just narrowly missed winning the World Series in 2003. She's now an extraordinary mother of an almost 2 and an almost 4-year-old, and an incredibly patient wife. So thanks for joining me once again on the Greg Bennett Show. Laura, how are you?
Good. Thank you so much, Greg. Thank you for the beautiful introduction. That's so sweet.
I know. Even for you, I'll do one of those.
Yeah. Maybe it's a little biased, but let's go with it.
This is almost like a date for us these days, huh? We've we having this moment where we have your dad sort of minding the kids while they nap. This is almost like a date for us to escape.
Yeah, we tried to get him on our anniversary, and that didn't work out. So it has to be work to get any help around here.
I know. Well, it's nice that we can finally sit down and chat without a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old running around our ankles.
It's actually continued conversation. Broken conversation. It seems to be my life nowadays.
I know. It's like
you never get to finish a conversation ever.
Even we've told our 4-year-old, to say excuse me, before she interrupts. But now she's got a real grasp of that. It's like all you hear is excuse me. You're like, oh, can I just finish my sentence?
Nope.
Well, we actually should be using this time to probably prepare for Christmas.
Lots of presents to wrap.
Yeah. Well, have you bought mine already?
Yeah, I got a few things.
Oh,
maybe. I don't know. Stocking, we do the stocking stuffing, so you got to get a lot of little presents.
Yeah.
So I still have a lot of work to do there.
Yeah, I got a lot to do. I find the whole Christmas can be kind of stressful, can't it?
It's very stressful.
Yeah.
All of these holidays. I mean, the amount of people I've talked to about Thanksgiving, and they're like, oh, they say it with, I guess, a bit of guilt. I just ordered in this year. I'm like, of course you should order in. The whole point is getting people together to just enjoy time together, but nobody will do it unless it's a holiday.
Yeah.
And so therefore we have to make a big deal of these holidays in order to get people to buy in and come and actually spend time together. And so, I think all of it is just, it's so hectic and stressful.
Look, some people love it though, right? I mean,
yeah, sure.
Some people, if you love to cook and you love to entertain, it's a great time of year. For us, we'd like to be entertained and we'd like to be cooked for.
Yeah, that would be nice. We kick every day.
Yeah. Now, just so you know, my voice might be a little off today. I have been dealing with this little bout of, I guess, what do you call it, bronchitis. I haven't been to a doctor to get purely examined, but a little bit of a chest infection. So, and have you got a bit of a head cold? How are you
I did
sounding?
have a little sign. I'm doing pretty well about fighting it off. I think now having kids, you get sick probably every couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So I think my immunity is actually getting stronger. Because this one, I've kind of kept it down to like a 3 out of 10. I mean, we eat pretty clean.
Well, you do.
And all of that.
You do much better than I do.
Yeah. I try to offer it.
I know. Look, honestly, I think this, as I was thinking about it and I just sort of put that in, I've had this bout of, it was probably only in September, October when I remember doing a podcast with Ben Canute. And on that one, I had to sort of apologize. And that wasn't that long ago. So,
And if you think you've had all of the Halloween candy in the interim.
Well, somebody had to eat that. The kids aren't allowed it. So, but I did eat that Halloween candy slowly over at least 6 weeks. So it wasn't all in one sitting.
There we go.
Anyway, let's move on from putting Greg down. And the goal of today is to really just celebrate the 2 years, 100 plus episodes of the show, which I've enjoyed tremendously. I want to sort of dissect the good questions and ask ourselves some of those same questions, and then talk about some of the episodes that truly sort of have left a mark. Then I thought we could reflect on our own careers, what worked and what didn't work in our own careers, and really sort of, if we went back in time and had to start all over again, what that potentially would look like. So why don't we start by sort of saying, first, I'll give myself an enormous pat on the back. 100 episodes.
Yes, well done, Greg. It's impressive, though. It really is.
Oh, thanks, babe.
It's a lot of work to get everybody on. And
yeah, it's that athlete mentality. I remember starting out and actually it started with, I was doing some work for NBC for announcing the Kona Ironman World Championships in 2019. Yeah. And I thought, I better prepare a little bit. I better call some of these guys to really see what's, how their preparation's going and everything. And I remember hopping off the call with Sebastian Kinley. And it was about an hour and a half of sitting in the living room and just chatting with a great guy. And he had so many wonderful stories. And I hung up and I came to you and I said, I should have recorded that. That was a conversation where people really, really enjoyed one of the greats of our sport, just opening up. It was at that moment, I knew nothing about podcasts. I wasn't really listening to them.
I don't even listen to them. That's great.
And I was like, where do I start? And through much homework and everything else, I thought I'd start. But I remember saying, I'll do 100 episodes.
Yeah, that's right.
If I'm going to do this, I've got to commit. And so I've committed, knowing that 100 episodes is basically 2 years. And so, yes, it does feel kind of special when you hit that goal. And it's like that athlete mentality of turning up every single week and just staying consistent. So it does feel pretty good about that.
It's nice to see how much you've grown on it. I mean, it's a lot of work to try and carry conversation, stay engaged, and still be entertaining.
Oh, and as you would put it, and listen.
And listen. You've become a much better listener since.
Yeah, I hope so.
After 100 episodes.
I hope so. But I was asked recently on the platform AnyQuestion, the app called AnyQuestion, what is my favorite question to ask guests on the show? Now, that was a really good question, actually. So what I wanted to do is, well, firstly, I'll give an answer to that in a moment. But then I thought with the answers that I give, that potentially those questions we also ask ourselves right now on the show. All right, so I don't know if you're going to be ready for this, but the first one, what I've loved is the number one question, and I've kept it in every episode, and that is, can we rewind the clock? And I know that's a very general and a very broad question, but I love listening to people's journeys of how they got to where they are. There's a story in everybody, right?
Always. What inspired them, who got them started, or what, I mean, some just fell into it, which is pretty interesting. And then they're world champions or, Olympic champions.
Well, some of the younger ones have been like that. I mean, they're like, I didn't really know anything. I was a triathlete at 4, 5, 6, and they're like, so that was all I ever knew. You got other ones like a Sebastian Kinley. His parents, I think, enrolled him, put him in the first triathlon going, he's got to get rid of some of this energy. This guy's out of control. It was like that kind of thing. So yes, the rewinding the clock is probably my favorite, probably my favorite question to ask because, you hear me in the playground, don't you? When I meet people and anybody I meet, everybody's got a story. Everybody's got a journey. I find people fascinating.
It is interesting. A lot of the people that you've had on here have amazing journeys.
Yeah, they do. They do. So I think that's probably my number one. And I think for the most part, understanding their family and their values and just where did that drive come from? You get a lot out of that,
Yeah. It's interesting how many top performers you're born with it almost. You're born with that drive, that anxiety, that
competitiveness.
Yeah. You want more out of the situation. Like I know growing up, my brothers always told me I couldn't do it, and it just drove me nuts. Okay, I'm going to have to do it now.
Well, they still do.
They do. That's true. So it's great to have the family support, but no, but I think that's motivating. And you know what? Honestly, I probably have a sister could be told the same thing. She'd be like, yeah, I can't.
Yeah.
And just walks on. So, and sometimes when you're dissecting what makes an athlete or doesn't, or trying to, see if you can identify it early in children, it's to some degree, it's just in them. They're just interested in doing more with their energy, or they have a lot of energy and they have to get it out. Yeah. And then all of a sudden they're good at a sport and they're like, well, this is nice. Like you've mentioned in the past, I like the pat on the back. So
I love the pat on the back.
Okay,
Laura. I don't get enough of it at home, to be honest.
Anyway, so yeah, I think it's really interesting, all of that.
All right. Well, the second question that I sort of have probably added just this year, 2021, I didn't have in 2020, and I use it at the end of the show, is sort of what's one piece of advice that you could help us to optimize our lives? And I've enjoyed that question. To learn from the best experts in the world is what's one piece of advice that I can take away that I can then go put into my life.
And what is yours?
We'll come to that.
Okay.
We'll come to that in a little bit because I liked, someone like an Alistair Brownlee. It's all about consistency. Others, it's been all about finding the joy, and having, just making sure you love what you do. Others is about balance, making sure you don't become too consumed. And it's just... I think there's been a lot of nice little takeaways in some of those moments where you say, how can I optimize my life? And every time I hear that, you put it into your own life and go, yeah, you can be more consistent, or you can work better at finding the joy in what you're doing. Actually concentrate on what are you passionate about and how much you enjoy it. And then, finding the balance. And what is balance? That becomes a whole conversation in itself. It's not 50-50. It might be just every now and then taking the time to ground yourself and going for a walk on the beach or whatever it is.
Exactly.
There's a lot in that question, and so that's been one of my favorites to ask. The final piece to this is I've enjoyed the rapid fire questions. Now, I've had one feedback from a good friend of mine, Adrian, who said he wasn't a fan of the rapid fire question as much because he kind of finds himself getting deeply involved in the conversation, and then he finds the rapid fire kind of can break that flow up. What I've found with these rapid fire questions, depending on the guest, they can be positioned either at the front of the show as a warm up, or at the end of the show as a bit of a conclusion, or in the middle just to give them a bit of a break, because it's exhausting sometimes being a guest as well when somebody just keeps firing questions at you. Well, it gives me a break too, to be honest.
There you go.
Yeah. So they have been fun. So why don't we do this? Like you said, why don't we ask ourselves these same questions and see how that feels? All right. And I know you've already been on the show, and I've been I've talked about myself for 2 years, but I thought we could basically start with the first question. All right. So Laura, if I was to rewind your clock, take us through your journey you can be in somewhat summary format if you like.
Yeah, I better make it really tight. So let me.
Yeah, that's true. You do tend to rabbit on at times.
I do rabbit on. Well, I just don't know what you want to hear about, so I just go on and on. So yeah, I think it's more recognizing I had a lot of energy as a kid, and I loved every single sport. All my friends were boys. I don't know if it was just the geographical place we lived where all boys were around me, but the girls were never doing anything inside. So I was always outside playing. And I think having a lot of energy put you into sport, and then you keep trying to find how you want to be better. Like I found that I was swimming growing up. Well, like I said, playing every sport, but focusing, on swimming. And then my dad was a runner, so I did a bit of running. And then my brothers got into triathlon when they got into college. So that kind of introduced us to triathlon. And I never really felt triathlon was my true gift. There's a lot of girls that come on the scene, and in 2 years, they're dominating the sport. I feel like I had a long life in the sport. I learned a lot. Like I've mentioned to you in the past, I had learned life lessons through the sport of triathlon. I feel I had tons of experiences, but I think that having strength and endurance in sport is really what triathlon needs. Now I have speed and power, which is helpful in transitions and getting off the blocks, things like that. So I had a lot of work to do in all the other parts of it, but it's been an unbelievable life for me, and I wouldn't change it for anything. But I think that as far as where my drive comes, like I mentioned before, I think it just comes from within, and I think that I love to be challenged. I love to see what I'm capable of. I love to try and be the best in the world, even if I'm not. That's why I always wanted to race world championships. I always wanted to be up against the best. So I knew exactly where I fell, whether it was, on top or not. And so, yeah, I think that's pretty much in a little tiny nutshell how I feel about.
Okay, on that, any regrets?
I mean, I've always took the sport on, I think, with intent. And I looked at it as a business in the sense of, okay, if I'm going to be here, let's maximize it. And so that's why we always focused on, okay, if you're going to race, let's race for the $10,000 win as opposed to a $1,000 win, because you're going to put as much energy into it no matter what. And so I think doing all of that, but kind of in the back of my mind, I never really felt like I'd be doing it for as long as I was. And so maybe there was a few times where I could have made a better decision on, maybe like getting some coaching or, when you and I got together, we really focused together. And I think that was super productive for yourself. And I think it was helpful. What I needed in that situation was more, I wanted to get my personal life started. So I, was growing with someone that forever I would be with. And so I think in the sport, I think a few times I wish I would have just focused on me and not the two of us at the same time. But, honestly, I'm not sure how much it would have changed. And my life at the end of the day, I'm not sure how much that would have changed. I had amazing experiences. I had success to the level that I feel like, for the work that I had done, probably deserved. And yeah, I'm not sure I have deep regrets, but, like you're always wanting for more. Yeah. That's the problem. That's our gift and our curse at the same time, is that you always want for more. And it's only until you're, like now, we're too old to actually do anything that we've done in the past. So we're not going to do that anymore. And I don't want to get near it, because then I have to think about and talk about, what could I be doing? A lot of people ask you that. What do you, do you miss triathlon? Being retired now. And I'm like, I just don't, because I know I can't be where I was.
I think that miss triathlon, the way I answer it is I miss the people.
Oh, absolutely that.
The people and the events. And that's why I've enjoyed doing a little bit of announcing, a couple of events and things.
That's right.
Surrounding yourself with the people, but not having to suffer. It's been really wonderful, not having to perform.
Exactly.
There's a performance, I guess, with the announcing side, but okay, so was there any times where you thought you wanted to give it away? You were in the sport for 20, 30 years.
Yeah, a long time. Oh, I'm sure there's plenty of times. I was injured most of my career, but I guess maybe in that respect, it was the challenge of getting uninjured and seeing what you could do. So, yeah, there was definitely times that I think, should I just be moving on here? I don't know. I didn't make that decision, so I just stayed in it. And yeah, maybe moving along sooner, but that didn't really pan out for me, because I don't know. I don't have the strongest guts, but I couldn't get the nutrition right on that for my system. So yeah, I don't know. I think I'm pretty satisfied with.
Yeah, I never thought about retiring.
No, right. Like every week, and to some degree you kind of feel like, wait, maybe it was that because you feel like you're not maximizing yourself for some reason. So you're like, well, I shouldn't even be doing it then, you know?
I think it's nervous anxiety. You're like, I just want to step off. It's too much. But
I know. It's the double-edged sword.
So, yeah, my journey. I came from a competitive family, you know, where all we did was watch sports. We were sports mad, you know, always on the weekend telly was whatever wide world of sports in Australia growing up. And it didn't matter what the sport, we loved it if it was done well. You know, we were watching cricket, or if we were watching rugby, or if we were watching the Olympics or rowing or whatever it was. And both my older brother and I, you know, my younger brother's a fair bit younger than us, but my older brother and I were fairly close in age. And so we were fairly competitive against each other. And my goal was always just trying to keep up with him, you know, whether it was and my dad used to time us around the block from a very early age, you know, we'd run against each other and I could never beat him. Fast forward just a little bit. I remember when I think I came back, I must have been about 23, already a professional triathlete. And my brother had done a couple of years stint as a professional rugby player, much bigger build than I am. Yeah. And so he said, why don't we go run the block like we used to when we were kids? And the first part of the block was straight up this steep hill called Pindari Avenue. And it was like, you know, probably 150 meters straight up. And then you do a long flat straight, and then come down the hill. And I remember Dad started us, bang, and we ran up the hill and he just sprinted. My brother was so far in front of me. I was like, what? I'm a professional athlete and I still can't beat him? But then I remember he got around the corner from the hill and there he was, just totally hunched over, hands on knees, about to pass out. And I think he was just trying to fake it, you know, like to make me almost give up. Yeah, and then I came around and finally I got to beat him around the block. But anyway, so that was kind of my growing up with that kind of family environment where sport, it was okay to be focused on sport, even more so than academics to some degree. Like it was, that was how driven we were in the sporting world. There was a real passion. I went to a high school where the focus of sport was rugby and rowing. It was a very traditional school. And being a smaller guy, that made it a bit difficult. You know, I was put in as a coxswain in the boat rather than, you know, my brother was rowing, stroking, you know, the first four and I'm the coxswain, and which is the little guy that sits down the back of the boat and steers at everybody. It doesn't.
But he's a leader.
Yeah. Laura's heard all these stories.
Go on.
Anyway.
No, I'm encouraging.
So, and then, you know, in the rugby sort of world, I was in the 13Es, 14Es, you know, I just never was that first 15 type rugby player. And then found myself in, actually it was one day training with the rowing crews, the first 8, first 4, and going for a 5K run. And they do a time trial run for all the rowers. And I was only in year 8 or 9.
And a $110. By the way.
And I was $110, which is 110 pounds for Australians or 50 kilograms. And so but I outran them all. And I was like, it was like the first time I was like, I'm not bad at this part, you know, 5K run I can do. And that was kind of the first time I thought, maybe I'm more of an endurance athlete than a power, big, strong, you know, athlete, which was both good and bad because I wanted to play first 15 rugby. I wanted to be in the first 8 rowing. You know, it was like that was what was important in the school at the time. So,
but you gotta love to be hit.
Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of being hit. Mainly also, I liked the playing of the rugby, you know, having the ball, the chip and chase, the pass out wide. I love the game and playing it, but I did get hit pretty hard. I think the flankers or the breakaways, the big guys on the edge of the scrums, and they're quick to get off the scrum, and they see a little guy like me grab the ball, and I think they get very excited about slamming me into the ground. So I got hit very hard. I was concussed many times in the rugby days, just getting hit hard. So anyway, fast forward a little bit, a couple of mates found the sport and you know, started off in a team event at the Nepean Triathlon, did the swim and run and thought it can't be that bad to put in the bike. And that was it. So added the bike and I think it was 1986. So I was 14, 15, a long time ago now. Wow. And like you said earlier, you know, I enjoyed the pats on the back as I found Balmoral Triathlon Club and they had little, you know, nightly biathlon, Friday night biathlons, aquathons, whatever you want to call them now. and a couple of good mates that made it a lot of fun as well. And we do all the road trips up and down the east coast of Australia and just exploring Australia and doing all the different events everywhere. And then we've talked about it, I think you and I don't know if on the podcast, but Malcolm Gladwell's book Outliers, where he talks about work, talent, and opportunity.
Yes.
And one of the things, I had tremendous work ethic, and that really came from, I was incredibly passionate and I wanted to do something special. And I had some talent. You know, I'm not going to shy away from that. I was reasonably talented, mainly because I think I was probably doing sport from such a young age. But opportunity, and it came my way fairly consistently. You know, I remember the Tui's Blue Grand Prix live triathlon in Australia, live television, 25 guys, 15 were automatic and 10 qualified. I qualified for that series in 94. And this was live television. It was
huge in Australia.
Super sprint racing. It was exactly what you see on Macca's Super League racing now. It was all that kind of format, but, you know, before internet, and it was just live television. And we were, you know, we did that for, it wasn't always the Tui's Blue. It changed names, St. George, Accenture, and all sorts of things. But it was, we were kind of little celebrities in our world of Australia, you know, obviously Greg Walsh and Brad Bevan were the bigger celebrities in the sport because they were the ones winning. But the rest of us were kind of, it was to have that opportunity to learn my craft as a 22-year-old amongst the best in the world. I mean, Greg Walsh was the world champion. Brad Bevan was the World Series champion. Miles Stewart, who joined a year or two later, won the World Championships in 91. We had all the world champions in that series. So I learnt my craft against the best every time I raced. And I'd race 3 times on a weekend because they were 20-minute races.
That's why the Australians were the best in the world back then.
We raced
and the rest
of
the world came down to race that exact series. This was all before the Grand Prix and the French Grand Prix, which now the Europeans have kind of taken over. Australia dropped that after the 2004 Olympics, which I think was the demise of the Australian program to some degree. I mean, we had plenty of athletes come through, but I think that the domination of Australian triathletes in the sport.
I couldn't agree with more. I think I've said it on this show. You got to race and learn your skills, learn your craft, you know, and especially when you're young, you know, in those late teens, early 20s, race.
And to be racing up against the best in the world every weekend.
Exactly. And what you see now in the countries that think, oh, well, we want to create great athletes, we better have more polo shirts and more administrators and scrap them all, race and do great racing. You know, if I was a high performance all I would be saying is I'd be calling Chris McCormack in this Super League series and say, mate, I need you to just put on races. You know, if I was in Australia, I'd say, I need 5 of your races in my country. Make it happen.
You bring it back.
That's it.
I mean, that's essentially Australians were doing it first. They dropped it. Then the French, they started their French Grand Prix, and now the Europeans are doing amazing. They're right there. They do 20-minute drive practically to these races. You know, it's the way to do it.
And they race the best in the world because that's now we're the best. I mean, you flew down in, what was your first year when you came 98. Down to Australia? You came down in 98 and you were racing Barb. Barb came down and then you were racing Loretta Harrop and Nicole Hackett. Nicole Hackett, excuse me.
I mean, that's what I thought. I thought, okay, I'm going to do triathlon. This is just out of university. And I thought, well, where are the best in the world? They were in Australia. And what are they doing? They're racing in the off season. That's where I'm going. And that's exactly what I did. And that's what it takes to be the best in the world. Be around it and be doing what they're doing. And that's racing, and your whole life revolves around it. If you don't want that, don't do it.
And look at the success that came out of that. I mean, Siri Lindley, you were rooming with Siri at one point, and she was a world champion a few years later.
Exactly.
But it's like you learn your craft. Simon Whitfield, you know, wins the 2000 Olympic Games. He decided when he was a young kid to move back to Australia from Canada. His dad was from Australia. Because he knew that's where the sport of triathlon was taken very seriously. And you could make a career of it. And he qualified for the series and he did all the, he raced. So then he's the Olympic champion at 25. His breakthrough race, which we can get into a bit later when I talk about some of my favorite episodes. But I think that the 90s for Australia, we were very fortunate to some degree that we had already a great pedigree. When you think of Greg Walsh, Miles Stewart, Brad Bevan, Stephen Foster, we had incredible athletes, and that's just on the men. We had equally, if not better, on the women. You know, with Emma Carley, McKeely Jones, Jackie Gallagher, just incredible women as well. And so you had that, Then you throw in the races that basically say, hey, Greg, hey, Craig Alexander, Chris McCormack, Simon Whitfield, you guys now get to race the world champions 5 to 7 events during the summer, which ends up being closer to 15 times.
Yeah.
And I got to go, I beat Greg Welsh out of the water. I'm with him on the bike. And he's outrun me on the run just. And maybe it was at the start of summer by 40 seconds. By the end of summer, I'm only 10 seconds behind. Or I even beat him every now and then. It was like...
And it's interesting because I remember talking to Bevan Doherty after he won Worlds in Madeira. And he said, we asked him, what was the difference? Why all of a sudden, he's been around for ages. He said, I just got some confidence. And that's exactly what can happen when you have these series going. Like you said, you all of a sudden, I beat Greg Welsh out of the water. I never thought I could ever be near him or something. You know, like things like that. And then all of a sudden you get a little spark, not necessarily that you're going to take over now because you got to do all the work. But
it inspires you to do the work.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So...
Well, let me go back to the opportunity because we're talking about the opportunity and that Grand Prix. And then a couple of years later, or maybe it was that same year, it's announced that Sydney will be the Olympics and triathlon will be in the Olympics for the first time. So not only is Sydney going to be the Olympics, my hometown, and I lived on Sydney Harbour there. It was like I could
venue.
Actually look at the swim course from home almost. And that was an enormous excitement, but it was also a bit of anxiety and stress and everything that goes with it. But
hometown race.
But it made the sport really come alive. Now, I had my own horror story with how that all ended up, not going to that Olympics and being number 2 in the world and that not happening. But at the same time, then I left that and moved to Canada, helped Simon Whitfield get ready to do his job at the Olympics. And long story short, he did go on to win it. And still one of my career highlights was Simon.
Yeah.
I take that as
special.
We kind of did that as a journey together, and I'll never forget, after he'd run down Macquarie Street for the win, and, I was crying, sitting there in the stands, and then the presentation, he was on the dais, and this is before 9/11, so security was maybe a fraction looser, but he ran off that dais and did run up to the crowd and leaned over and put the medal around my neck and said, "This is yours."
That's pretty cool. That's amazing.
That was really
cool. You
cool.
guys were the perfect combination, though. I think, he has a lot of talent and he does like to work, but he doesn't consistently like to work and stay focused. I think that's probably his gift as well.
It's probably focus.
His art of distraction is what keeps him doing well. It's odd, but yes. So I think you coming in and giving him somebody to chase, somebody who's already on the scene, somebody like your Greg Welsh who you had chased, and he's training with you every single day. And then also saying, we have to be up every day at this time, like the discipline of staying on top of it. And then with his combination of genetics and his work ethic as well, working with you, it brought him out on the day.
And that leg speed,
oh yeah,
phenomenal.
That's the talent.
Yeah,
that's the talent.
If you can run a 52-second quarter or 400 meter on the track in flats, you're a real sprinter.
You don't grow that. That's in there.
Yeah,
you just have to. You just have to develop it a little bit. It was a beautiful combination that brought about, and that would be so special to actually. I mean, sometimes helping others. To the point to their success is just as. I
almost think more so sometimes. I mean, even when I look at the work we did with each other, and when you had a great race, it just felt.
No, it's true.
It even felt deeper than your own. I think sometimes.
Yeah, it's really nice.
But going back, so basically, I think that then led to sort of the opportunity. I focused on the ITU World Series and had my was rewarded with a couple of titles there, and that was really nice. But I was starting to get really tired of that series, and then all of a sudden the US says, "Oh, we're going to have this big non-drafting World Series, Olympic distance," which I still think is the greatest distance in the world. Non-drafting Olympic, I think, is the race, and yet. I keep seeing it just disappear, and it's like we go 70.3s, which basically the swim doesn't matter as much, and 90k bike, 20k, 1k run, it just becomes a longer day. So you got to pace yourself more, and then the Ironman, well, that's just doubles it all up again. I'm not saying they're not worth doing. I did them all, but I just feel like that perfect
it has to be more dramatic.
The apex. I just think in our sport, the pinnacle is that 1500 meter swim, 40k non-drafting bike, a full time raw power. Absolute raw power, and then a 10k, which is just enough that if you trained, you can sprint a 10k. You know what I mean? Not obviously not sprint, but you can really get after it and not have to pace yourself. It's not about gels. It's not about salt levels. It's not about anything else. And the other thing, if you're weak in any of those three disciplines, you're out.
Yeah.
You can't swim well, you're out. You don't make it up in a 40K bike, 10K run, you're out. You know?
Well, some of the interesting things were that year you had the 5 for 5. Your run splits, weren't they, no matter the course, were always about 3 or 5 seconds
they
between them?
All 5 were, I think it was 7 seconds difference from...
7 seconds.
And that's over different courses, different terrains. It was actually
you think LA, you think, was it Dallas or...
Yeah. New York was hilly.
New York.
Yeah, it was quite remarkable. But
my point is that it's so fine-tuned when you're in that Olympic distance.
Yeah.
That the detail of, just swimming 100s on, whatever it is, 101s, 102s, or 103s is a big difference.
Yeah.
Or like you're saying, the run just within seconds of each other. You have to have that consistency to have that success.
Now, look, I'm probably celebrating the Olympic distance non-drafting because...
You're good at it?
Yes.
But we're talking about you.
Yeah.
So.
It's my journey. Remember, everybody was still on it. Remember, Laura's went for about 30 seconds. We're up to about 15 minutes on mine.
Hopefully we're giving some good entertaining stories along the way.
Anyway, that series came to an end, then High V came along, and so we got all of that.
Exactly.
And so my point of all of that was I got a lot of great opportunities along the way.
Yeah.
And
that combination.
Talking opportunity, you also have to be ready and aware and adapt quickly when it's available. Do you know what I mean? It's one thing to see it, but you still got to adapt, change, be willing to dive in.
I remember when that series did come along, the non-drafting series, and you were doing the Olympic distance, or you were doing the ITU, and we sat down and we're like, hang on, you got to get out of this and go into that. We know that's your talent. You have to go that way. And, you've been in the ITU for, I forget what year that came about. Was it 06 that it started up?
The full series started in 06, yeah.
So, you've been doing that for, what is that, 8 years?
Yeah.
8 years on the Olympic scene.
15.
So it's hard to kind of get out of your comfort zone and move into something else. And that's what you did. So it's one thing that it's probably one of my big takeaways when we talk about optimizing, the next question of what's one thing to optimize your life. I really think that being open to opportunity and constantly telling yourself every day, be open for opportunity. Yeah.
Because I think we miss things. We miss opportunities in every aspect of life. And I think that's an important one.
It's a bit of finesse because to do well in what you're trying to focus on, you have to kind of be focused. So you're not necessarily looking around for what other things are going on. And sometimes that can be a distraction. And so it is a bit of a challenge to kind of be saying, I want to stay focused on here and do well here, but could there be something else?
Yeah, and I think that's it. I think it's not saying, could there be something else, like an opt-out. It's not looking at it like an opt-out. It's more looking at it as, I think just we have one life.
Yes.
And opportunities come and they go very quickly. I remember one athlete, I won't mention names, but I remember after I'd won that 07 series and it had paid well and it was quite successful. And they said, I should have done that rather than chasing the Olympics. And I was like, well, firstly, it was open to anybody. Anybody could have entered, right? You didn't have to qualify.
Exactly.
And secondly, and here's a bit of my ego kicking in, you would have had to have beaten me. It's like, screw you.
No way.
So
Bring it on.
Yeah,
exactly.
Anyway,
no, that's true.
The second question that I've really enjoyed asking, what's one piece of advice that you would suggest for people to optimize their life?
I think living your life with intent. I think that's kind of what I was kind of touching on earlier is
I like that.
Looking at, okay, what am I liking doing right now? Like as a kid, I loved sport, period. Okay, well, if you're going to do sport, do you want to do it the rest of your life? Do you want to do it as long as you can? Okay, well, how are you going to fund that? Okay, well, then look at this sport as a business. And essentially, that is how I live my life. Like when I got into triathlon, I thought, okay, well, at first you have no money, but, I had the opportunities to go to the US training center and living in the dorms and things like that. Okay, now you've lived on your own already, but you're moving back into a dorm. Okay, well, you're going to give up some of your lifestyle in order to be able to afford to do this sport. And then as you evolve in the sport, other things you're going to have to give up and let go of in order to support yourself. And like I said, if you're going to race on a weekend, why wouldn't you race for the 10 grand win over the $1,000 when you know you're going to give 110% to your training. So just focus. And then also, like we did a lot of once we came together, is put a plan together. You're not racing every time there's an opportunity to race. No, you know you can only peak so many times, and generally you can't peak for probably 6 months if you do the progression correctly. So, you know, you got to go through your base phase, then you got to go through your strength phase, and even though those combine a little bit, and then your threshold, and then you have a 6-week period to nail it, basically. And maybe you get a few successes before that or after that. But generally, it is, you know, a planned out way to do it. And, you know, we saw athletes in the past that were just grabbing. And they're like, oh, I can't do it very good on the big day. Well, yeah, because you're not trying to do it very good on the big day.
You haven't been intentional.
You haven't been intentional. And so I think that's one of the biggest pieces. If you can just, doesn't matter what you want to be doing, but what you want to focus on, just have intent. Step back, think about it. What do I want out of this? You know, and how am I going to achieve it?
Do you think another way to look at intent is almost having self-responsibility and going just all in?
Kind of, but you still got to plan it out a bit.
Yeah. It's like everything.
You can run into the brick wall if you'd like, or you could say, all right, well, maybe I'll build some steps before I get to the wall. Yeah. So then I can just jump on over it. Because that's the problem. I think a lot of people are they could come into the sport and they're just good at it. And how many of the girls have we seen come into the sport and destroy themselves at 18, 19 years old, make an Olympic team, and poof, they're gone. One, they don't have great guidance. So I put a lot onto that, because not that their coach is to blame. It's still on you, but it's an opportunity for those coaches to actually grow this athlete properly, as opposed to have a one-hit success. Yeah. And so I think
it's poor coaching.
It's just poor coaching. But I think the athlete in it, if they don't realize that, you know, maybe that's their weakness, not their talent is the sport, but their weakness is understanding that this isn't, you don't do 3 track sessions a week.
Or not taking control at all.
Or just putting it all over to the coach and saying, you know, and that's, the self-awareness I think is important to have in order for you to be able to make those decisions, and recognizing maybe also from others. Okay, let's see what's realistic here, and seeing people and how they've succeeded in the sport. I mean, we've been watching people succeed and not succeed through the sport for years.
Shaking our heads at times.
And just going, oh, I see what they did there. Maybe had we focused on that, we probably could have done a little bit better here or there. Yeah. Recognizing what's happening around you, and that, I guess it's called awareness.
I think it's awareness, and I think it's, I would look at a coach as that you are employing them. They are a part of your journey. They are a part of your team. They're a part of it. You are not under their umbrella and they're taking full control of your life. No, if you want to do anything well, you need to be the pilot. Exactly. You're in control. And then now you build your team, right?
You tell them, I would like this from you.
Exactly. Period. And I think that's, even in the teenage years, there needs to be that self-empowerment that they can talk to their high school coach or whatever and say, look, this is my journey. Yeah. And I'd love to have you on board. I think
and it's a teammate thing. It's not a dictatorship.
Exactly.
That's the difference.
It's a relationship.
Working together.
It's a relationship.
Relationship and working together. And hopefully the coach is open-minded enough to grow as well with the athlete, as opposed to having an ego and just wanting to see what they can do, and so that they can move up. And that's the danger that we've seen in the past. And we've seen a lot of talent just be fizzled away because they used it up too quick. You know, and it's
they get excited too, right?
Of course. Well, then they get accolades for being a great coach. You know, so of course. I think things are evolving a little bit more in our sport, and you're not seeing as much of that, but maybe not.
Maybe not. But I love that one. Intent. My one on that one, on optimizing your life, I think for me, it's probably identifying what you're passionate about and aligning that with your strengths. And that'll give you your purpose. I feel like when you are passionate, and that passionate is overwhelming, because when bad things happen, and they will happen,
absolutely,
you need that passion alive. Then you don't. It's easy to be passionate when things are going well, but that when you really have a desire to do something at next level, if you're passionate, don't follow it blindly. I'm not a fan of that whole, go follow your dreams blindly.
No, believe it, dream it, whatever.
But I would say at least write it down, have a look at it, think about it, and then ask yourself or get others to tell you, or do any of those tests out there and really identify what your strengths are. Now, do those strengths align with your passion? Do they? And be honest. And if they do, guess what? You might potentially have found your purpose. That when you have that purpose, then go, like you said, go follow it with intent. So I'm almost the phase before the intentional phase, right?
Makes sense.
And that's what I would say is being, and especially if we're talking to the younger generation, is like, look, it's great to know your passions. Identify them, write them down, talk about them, but do the same with your strengths. And I'm not saying you won't have some weaknesses that you got to mitigate and work on and everything else. But when you can follow your strengths, and this is my big thing, I really believe that we're all born in this world of ours, that we all have something to give. In our DNA, in every individual DNA, we all have something to give to this planet. But it only works if we all follow our strengths.
Absolutely.
And we have a world where we keep trying to tell each other and put each other down, or tell each other that we're weak here, we could improve there, blah, blah, blah. Yes, that's fine. But we don't ever lead with strengths.
Yeah.
People don't go around recognizing, saying, you do that really well. Lead with that. And then say, you could work on that a little bit. But a little bit of feedback is okay. But
I think also trying to not focus too much on the outcome goal. Like, I want the kids, as a young kid, I want a gold medal.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's fine. That's fine. That's a great goal to have.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of gold medalists out there that have no idea how they got there.
And they're miserable.
Yeah. So the point of that is why do you want that gold medal? Do you want it do you want it for pats on the back? Do you want it for everybody else to tell you how good you are? Or do you want it because it shows the level of dedication and passion and intent you had in everyday life that gave you something to wake up to, or a reason to wake up and get out there and maximize yourself? I mean, a lot of people don't like the saying where I just want to be the best I can be. Well, to some degree, you need to be the best you can be, and then you show it to the world, and that will determine whether you're the best in the world, being the best you can be. And so I think a lot of people say, I want to be the best I can be, or I want to be the best in the world. They forget to focus on the one thing that will get them to be the best.
On.
Yourself, and maximizing yourself and figuring out, what are my strengths? Put most of your energy into that. But if you don't tweak the weaknesses and focus on those a little bit, you're probably not going to maximize yourself. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people get disillusioned with. They're so focused on the outcome goal as opposed to the processing.
It's funny when we've talked about this a bit ourselves, and when you get a young athlete that's wanting to go to the Olympics, and they might be living on their parents' credit cards or whatever it is, and you ask them, why do you want to go to the Olympics? And they've never been asked that.
Yeah.
Right? It's just assumed, because that's what, as an athlete in today's society, and if you're in an Olympic sport, well, then that's what you should be striving for, right?
Exactly.
And it's like they haven't actually stopped to think, why do I want to go to the Olympics? My parents have their agenda. My coach has his agenda. Society have their own agenda. The country have theirs. Yeah, exactly. And that was when, going back a bit, that's when I remember when you talked about making a conscious decision about me stepping away from the ITU and focusing on the US racing. And I'd gone to the 2004 Olympics and I got fourth and was reasonably happy with that, coming off injury and everything else. Sure, a medal would have been lovely, but it was also, I knew I optimized myself on that one day. So I walked away with my head held high. But it was also in that 2005 period when we heard about the 2006. And I said, I don't need to go to the Olympics again.
Yeah,
I don't need to repeat what I just did. It was wonderful. I had a great set of teammates with Peter Robinson and Simon Thompson, and the women's team were fantastic. And we just had a good experience. It was an Olympic experience. It was fun, and I did the best I could. Did I need to keep going back? No.
Well, I don't think you needed to keep going back because it wasn't your true talent.
But it wasn't that. I mean, it wasn't a bad talent. I mean,
you were. No, but I'm saying like if non-drafting never came up, you'd probably still be doing ITU.
Yeah. That's right.
Whereas that came up, and it was the perfect opportunity to actually show your true talent in.
Yeah, but we then had pushback, whether family or friends, going, "What? You're not following the Olympic road again?" And
exactly.
And what the funny part about that was, I did get put on the Australian Olympic team in 2008 from doing one race in Mooloolaba, and they put me on the team that night. I was like, "What?" I didn't even know it was a trial race. That was the irony of all of that.
And then they lost the spot.
And then they lost the spot anyway, but I didn't race. A quick mini break to remind you to go check out AnyQuestion. AnyQuestion you can find in your app store. You can download it, one word, AnyQuestion. And you can go to AnyQuestion and ask many of the experts that I've had on the show questions that I might have missed in the show. I put on the other day, again on AnyQuestion, I wrote a question to everybody on the platform, and I asked, what's some fun rapid fire questions that I could add on the show? And I thought what we could do today is we quickly go through and we can ask each other, we'll take turns going through them, some of the responses that we got. All right?
Okay.
You want to do that? So I'll go first. Okay, Kate Courtney, probably one of the world's greatest mountain bikers. She said, taco or burrito? And she said you can learn a lot about a person from a taco or burrito.
Do you like the crispiness?
No, I'm really nervous about this answer.
I'm not sure which one to ask. I mean, I know what I kind of like better, but...
Can I say fajita?
Can I take the cop out and build it myself?
Yeah.
Still a burrito.
The sound of a burrito makes me sound like I'll be very full and feel heavy. So I'm going to go taco, a soft shell taco. All right. Okay. Tim Don. My goodness, he's given us a few. Here we go. Favorite child?
You can't do that.
You know what? You can't do
unless you only have one child.
Well, that's true. But you can't do favorite child, but I think you can do favorite age of a childhood. Do you know what I mean? Like I think
childhood, yeah.
So I think like when your children are between that 1.5 and 2.5,
it's the best.
It's just they're so cute and adorable, and they're learning to speak and that age. So if you've got one child there and the other one's in the pushback phase,
true,
then it's not that you don't love them both. It's just you prefer the phase that they're in.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So all right, I'm not going to actually name names, but I just prefer an age. Okay, dog or cat?
Probably dog. Yeah.
You're probably dog.
I mean, yeah.
I'll go dog. Red or white wine?
Red. I'm more red.
Yeah, a full-bodied red.
Yeah.
Or a very sweet wine on a hot summer's day maybe, but...
Yeah, with no tannins, doesn't give you a headache. Can we get all those things nowadays?
Has it been 4 years since we've had a drink? It's been that long, hasn't it? Since kids. So we're not the best. A Jaeger bomb or a shot of tequila? These are all Tim Don's, by the way.
I never knew this about Tim.
Yeah. Oh, I did. He's a
Jaeger bomb. I don't know what the Jaeger bomb... I've heard of that, but I can't... is that Jägermeister? I don't know. Yeah. I think it's a type of alcohol. Okay,
I think the Jaeger, because the thought of having any more tequila, I can't stomach it.
Oh, but the good stuff is pretty good.
No. Okay.
Next.
Mountain bike or road bike?
A mountain bike.
Yeah, mountain bike these days.
Sure.
These days. He said BBC or Sky Sports. I don't know. Does that mean a sports channel or a news channel? Is that? I would say sports.
Oh, yeah, right. Sports channel, for sure.
He's got Trump or Biden. I'm going to just sidestep that one.
Yeah.
Carbon or no carbon shoes? We've never tried them, so that one's not really...
Oh, yeah, for running, the carbon?
Yeah.
Carbon?
Yeah,
from what I've seen.
Everybody seems to be running about a minute faster for 10K, so I'll take the carbon.
Yeah.
Fan of Lance Armstrong or not a fan of Lance Armstrong? These are all Tim Don questions. You know what? For what Lance gave me for entertainment, from whatever years he started to finish that phase, I truly enjoyed the Tour de France those years, right? Deep down, I knew the whole thing was probably, a bit dodgy. But in saying that, I was also the last person to race Lance Armstrong.
That's true.
And get second to him.
That's true.
In the Hawaii 70.3, where I set a record by 8 minutes over Craig Alexander and Chris McCormack's records were 8 minutes back.
Still not good enough, Greg.
I got beaten by 2 minutes. I was like, and had a great race there. He was always nice enough to me in that kind of respect. Like I never, we got to know each other a little bit. Yeah. I can get why people were really upset at him, but I wasn't surprised because not for a moment did I think any of that was real. So I don't know. I was never hurt by it, and I enjoyed the entertainment.
Probably not a fan of his choices, but that's the world he lived in.
Yeah.
Thank God we don't have to have that choice in our sport.
Exactly.
To have success.
I think we answered that very diplomatically.
Yes.
All right, Dan Plews said, what book have you re-gifted the most? I don't think we give gifts, do we? Or
re-gift books.
No, re-gift? Or give a new... Yeah, re-gifted. Does that mean pass it on to somebody?
Yeah, kind of like, I read this, I got to get this for you.
I
don't read enough books.
Is it possible that I could do one where I've suggested it the most?
Sure.
And that would be what we talked about already. I think I've suggested Malcolm Gladwell Outliers probably the most.
Very interesting book.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. Mm-hmm. Okay. When you think of success, who do you think of? Wow. There's a lot in that, because what is success?
I know. That's a hard one. There's a lot of options for that. Like, do you think of it as...
Do you think of Elon Musk because he's...
Is a brilliant mind?
Or do you think of somebody that's raising awesome kids and has just been a great parent and just... Because that's a really hard job.
It's like the hardest job in the world. I cannot commit more of my life to something and feel less accomplished. It's amazing. Maybe one day you're going to sit back and be like, whew, all that work. Because it feels a little bit like work when you, like I've said, I don't really like telling people what to do. And then I don't also like repeating myself. And that seems to be the two things that I do all day long.
Well, and it's also like we talked about on our podcast, it's like I always found with sport, or when you're in the pursuit of something where you want to be the greatest in the world, you live life at a 10 or you live it at a 0 when you're fully recovering and just, and it's intent, bang, 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 or it's not. Being a parent is living between that 3 and 6 in the sense that you're never accomplishing or hitting.
You're never getting a full night's sleep. You're never getting to finish the sentence.
You're never
getting
fully
to
recovered
eat your own food without a little person in your...
Yeah, and you never feel that sense of accomplishment. You're just kind of like...
No, exactly.
But every now and then they give you a smile and a hug and you get those little bits. But
there's nothing better. But
that takes you up to a 6 or 7.
It is interesting. It's more self-awareness of the life we're living now and what it is all about. And they're pretty amazing little creatures.
All right. And then his final one is, what do you do first thing in the morning? Let's probably grab one of our kids that's crept into bed and put them back in bed, isn't it?
Yeah. Take the eye shades off, take the earplugs out, take the saw machine off.
Yeah, it's quite a process in our house.
What it takes
Turn the cooling mat off.
What it takes to sleep anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, but probably kick the little person that's migrated into your bed out first.
Yeah.
Carry him out.
Yeah. I think that's kind of it. But you're pretty good about just jumping up and going straight to the gym and doing a workout.
I do. I do 20 minutes of stair stepper and 15 minutes of gym. And
every
now,
single day for years. It's amazing how you do the same thing every day.
I know. Well, right now, yes. That's the only energy I have. That's about all I've got. But it keeps me enough where I can lift up the kids and I don't feel sore every day.
These are meant to be rapid fire, by the way.
Sorry, go.
Okay. Jan Frodeno. Movie, go to the movies or Netflix?
Oh, Netflix.
I take both right now. I haven't done either for so long. Okay. Milk or dark chocolate?
Milk.
Yeah, I'd prefer milk, but I have dark. Coffee, black or white?
Black.
Yeah. Okay, black. If it's a really good black, though. It's not worse than getting a bad black, because then you just got to put milk in it anyway. Kama Sutra or Quickie? What? This is Jan Frodeno.
Yeah, hang on.
I don't even...
Is this out of experience, Jan? You're asking me this question?
Yeah. Look, I'd take anything right now, too. Yeah. Excuse me, everybody, we're going to hit pause.
Next, Emma Palant.
Emma Palant. I don't understand this one. Fish head or fish body? Does it mean to eat it, or do you want...
I'll take the fish body if it means to eat it.
I never knew that was okay.
Treadmill.
You're in a 14-day quarantine. Treadmill or turbo?
Treadmill.
I think I take the turbo. I jump on, just hop on the bike each day.
So uncomfortable.
Brett Hawke, if you've got your last meal. You
might as well go out with a bang.
What are you going with?
Maybe some, like a really thick carrot cake with a lot of frosting on top.
Oh, just straight up dessert.
But it's got to be hot with ice cream.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mark Klee said, one song for the rest of your life. And why?
Oh, wow.
You know what I would like is, what's that piece of music where they...
Is it Beethoven?
Is it Beethoven? Yeah, I think it was Beethoven.
Ode to Joy?
Ode to Joy. I would take Ode to Joy.
That's a really good one.
Yeah, it's so inspiring. It's such a story and a journey in itself.
Yeah, I'd pick one of those. I'd have to go back and listen to some. I haven't listened to any.
I couldn't listen to any music of the last 50 years over and over again.
No, just the classical.
A classical piece. And then he's also got one food on a desert island for life.
Oh, I don't know. You're going to get sick of it, aren't you?
He said it gives you all the nourishment you need. This one meal. I think I'd pick something like, it want to be like a layer something like lasagna, like layers. So you could go, I'm just having the pasta today, or just the cheese, or I'm having just the meat.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, so probably something like that.
Yeah, I'll go with you on that. Maybe I'll have that as well.
Okay.
Because that's really, it does.
All right, we're almost done with rapid fire. Laura Siddell says, Brussels sprouts, ? So basically, do you like Brussels sprouts?
I do.
Yeah, especially if they're with bacon and butter.
Oh, yeah.
And baked. All right, I'll say yes, if so long as they're prepared appropriately. Winter or summer? Summer.
Yeah.
Mountain or coast? Coast.
Yeah.
You agreeing with me on all these? Crocs? Yeah, I don't mind Crocs.
Yeah, they're all right.
Sweet or savoury? You'd be sweet, wouldn't you?
I don't do sweet much anymore, but I think I'll go savoury for now.
Yeah, I'm probably savoury. Roger or Raphael? Roger or Raphael? Tennis players.
Oh, right, yeah.
Roger.
No, I know. I was just trying to think.
God, I like them both tremendously. I really think they're great. But I'm leaning towards Rafa, and I don't know why.
I'd want to get to know him first before I'm going to make that decision.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, are we good mates?
Yeah, I mean, I watch him play tennis, how they move on the court.
Yeah. I know. But Rafa's always picking at his butt. That annoys the hell out of you, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
It does. Nike, just get him something that fits him.
Yeah, I think it's just a nervous twitch. But
yeah, it probably is part of his.
All right. Socks or no socks on the bike?
I used to do no socks.
Yeah, I like socks.
I like the feel in the shoe.
Yeah.
My foot.
I mean, I'd race with no socks always.
Sure.
But I like to train with them. And then Kona or Olympic medal? Olympic medal or Olympic gold?
That's a good point.
She's got it as Kona or Olympic medal, which now opens this up, because would I rather win gold or have a bronze medal? I'd rather win Kona than a bronze medal.
True.
But I'd rather an Olympic gold than Kona. So, and then the silver, I'd still rather win Kona than get silver. So it goes. Yeah.
I mean, that's
okay.
Probably goes without saying.
Tommy Zafiris says, favorite pickup line?
I don't know. It's been 22 years since you've been in that world. So.
Yeah. How did I get you? Because whatever it was, that's my favorite.
It was a good one. I don't remember what it was.
I remember I'd given up on dating girls, and then it was like I'd broken up with a girl literally like the day before. You turned up on pool deck, and I'm like, who's that?
Fickle mind.
I think I just asked. Yeah, he says looks don't matter. Of course they matter. Yeah, they're the initial part.
Now that you've done 100 episodes, which ones have left you with the greatest mark? Which?
Have affected me or left me the mark?
Biggest mark.
Yeah. You know what? I'm not going to pick one, but I'll go through a few. And I think episode 1 leaves a mark, because that's to actually record, put it up, have it go out. And that was with Craig Alexander. We've been longtime friends for almost 30 years. Actually, it'll be 30 years, I think, next year. And I just think one of the greatest humans in the world.
He is.
And he went
He's so fun. Such a family man.
Yeah. And that episode really just draws out who he is as a person. So the episode 1 was definitely, right after that was Simon Whitfield, also probably one of my longest time friends and mates. And the biggest takeaway from that one with Simon was just the weight of the gold medal.
Yeah. He did such a great job backing it up.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
To have it at such a young age.
Yeah.
And then having to, not only on the course, have to keep showing up and performing after that. Because a lot of people are one-hit wonders and then they're gone. They disappear. They can't back it up, And so it was circumstance more likely that put him there on the day. But Simon proved that wasn't the case.
No,
he
as
had what
an
it took.
Athlete. So yes, you're talking about him and
just
how
on the field.
He backed up on the field. I was actually talking about the weight of gold in more the negative sense. Long term, how he said I could just put the gold medal on the. People asked me to come and speak. Yeah. He said, look, I could just put the gold medal on the dais, the podium, and walk off. He says, I've retold the story so many times and times again that he's like. He's somebody that he's quite a heavy, deep thinker. And
he doesn't like to be identified as that's all he is.
Yes, he's more than that. So that was
very intelligent.
A big takeaway from that episode. Javier Gomez's second episode when he came on, and he wished he had more confidence. And
amazing.
I was, 10-time world champion. Nobody's won more races than him. No. Nobody. You'd have to put Jan Frodeno and Alistair Brownlee's careers combined to have as many win totals as Javier Gomez.
Wow.
He just wins. He races a lot and he wins a lot. Now, look, he didn't win the Olympic gold.
True.
He hasn't won Kona yet, so he's missing a couple of big titles. But, man,
Still got an unbelievable
but my
career.
point is, in saying all of that, is he still wishes he had a bit more confidence.
I know.
So it's amazing how even when you
It's
have
never-
success, you still, self-belief still takes a bit of work.
True.
Mark Allen was special. Obviously, I was a massive fan of his growing up as a kid, and now I would call him a good friend, and it's very special even to do that. But his episode was special because of the way he approached his mental strategies to prepare to win Kona, which he got defeated 6 times in a row until he finally got it.
Talk about perseverance.
Yeah.
And knowing what you want.
And then he went and won another, and then he won it 6
After
once
that.
he started. Just a great story in itself. And him working on finding neutral, being able to get his brain into that not negative,
sports
not
psychology
positive, just,
side of it,
just neutral. Yeah, he took it to another level. So that was a great episode. Anybody who hasn't listened to that one should. Who else? Nino Schurter. He's one that I didn't know as a person. I only knew him as a fan of watching mountain biking, arguably the greatest of all time mountain biker. And that one was interesting because when I hit, he jumped online and said, "Okay, who is this and what am I doing here?" And I was like, it's Greg.
The Swiss way.
Yeah, very Swiss.
Very
Swiss
direct.
German. And it was a little bit taken aback. Well, I'm Greg Bennett and this talking high performance, blah, blah, blah. But what I loved about that episode was that his willingness and his desire to want the best of the world to come over and take him on in the mountain biking. And Matthew Van der Poel had won everything in cyclocross and one of the greatest we're seeing now on the road. And did come over and was kind of beating Nino every now and then. He just said, it's so great. He was loving it. It wasn't about the winning for him. It was like you talked about earlier, the process and the pursuit of excellence that really got him excited. So that one was fun.
Yeah, definitely.
What else have we had? I think Christian Blumenfeld was interesting because that was April. The first time I had him on was a good year before the Olympics. So to have him kind of on that episode saying that, he was confident he could win the Olympic Games. It was pretty cool to at least get that as history.
Yeah.
Vincent Lewis was special to get his background, his journey.
It's amazing.
He didn't come from a lot.
So grounded.
Yeah, just didn't come from a lot, but knew what he really wanted.
Exactly.
And so it's worth listening to. Anybody? Episode 1, the first time Vincent came on was really special. It was great to get our friend Mark Webber on the show.
Yep.
And his big takeaway was all about the ability to adapt under pressure, adapt. And that was his thing. And if you want to listen to somebody that's very well put together, knows how to speak, that was a great interview. And I learned a lot from Mark Webber. Sebastian Kinley, who I talked about a couple of times already, and his parents, he threw the ping pong bat at he told this whole story. He's like, it wasn't just throwing a ping pong bat. He said, I won this ping pong table tennis tournament in his area. And, but one of the times, he lost a point, or maybe he lost the game in the final, and he threw the whole table. He picked it up and threw it. I said, what? And I said, who'd you lose to? And he said, my brother. And it was at that point, I think his parents knew that he had too much energy, too much built up anxiety, frustration, and so he found triathlon. So that was fun.
Throw him in the pool.
Throw him in the pool. They got to tie this kid out. Who else? Kate Courtney. She was fantastic. Again, didn't know Kate. By the end of the episode, I was in love with Kate. I just thought she was a beautiful person, very professional. And I think we haven't seen the best of her in the mountain biking, the way she's approaching it. And mountain biking is very European. So for her to be in the US and taking on the Europeans, I think she's doing a really great job. I'm looking down the list, everybody. Hamish Carter, obviously longtime friend as well. And what I liked about Hamish was to win the Olympic Games in 2004, what he had to do, and this is his words, not mine so much, is change as a person, not so much as an athlete. I made him explain what he meant by that. And he kind of said, look, in 2000, when he went in as one of the favourites and Simon Whitfield won the gold, he felt like that medal should have been his.
Yeah.
Simon didn't deserve it.
Yeah, right. He had a lot of success. I mean, he was one of the ones that was like, it would be expected.
Yes.
He was one of the people.
But I think he thought if he showed up,
I know,
it would be expected. And then I think he had to change who he was to say, no, whoever wins on the day deserves it.
Exactly.
And
unfortunately, that is the case.
There was like a personality trait that he had to work on. So I enjoyed that one.
That's pretty interesting.
That was a nice takeaways in that one. Phil Liggett, because
it's Phil.
It's Phil Liggett.
Yeah.
And I love that we've become friends.
Beautiful voice.
Yeah.
For the sport. And, how many cycling races have we listened to? He often put me to sleep, to be honest, because he was just such a soothing voice.
I know.
Although I was really tired after training, so it's not so much that it's not interesting. And all his little
he's got so many stories.
Philisms.
I need to bring Phil Liggett back on, actually. We've become good mates since announcing the Collins Cup together, and I'd actually call him a good friend now.
Yeah.
And to be able to call Phil Liggett a good friend, it makes me kind of
cool.
happy. Dr. Tommy Wood has been on a couple of times, fascinating. There was one quote that he loved, which was, what you think has a direct impact on your physiology. And it really goes to my mindset. I've always been a big fan of visualizing and really, understanding what you want and understanding that when you visualize well enough that can affect you hormonally at a deeper level. And it's amazing how it can almost attract what you want. Mm-hmm. So that was fascinating.
It's true.
Tim Don, we talked about earlier. Well, that was one of his questions earlier. Just, when we talk about what a champion is, my dad used to say a champion's not someone who wins all the time. A champion's somebody who just gets back up. They just keep getting back up. And after Tim's breaking his neck.
Oh my gosh.
And then re-qualifying for Kona the next time around.
Amazing. I'm not sure what he felt like he had to prove, but it was really impressive.
He's got 4 or 5 world titles already, and just
phenomenal athlete and hilarious guy.
Oh, one of the most fun interviews I've had. Absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Hunter Kemper, big shout out, mate. Really on that one, the focusing on the process rather than the outcome that you've already talked about as well a fair bit. Siri Lindley, also a big shout out. Just also another inspiring story. Nothing can knock her down, cancer or anything else.
Keep driving.
Dr. Mansoor Muhammad, I loved that one with going through my DNA results live on the podcast. I had no idea what we were going with that. So it was a bit of fun.
Some of that was pretty spot on, wasn't it?
Yeah, you enjoyed that a little bit more, didn't you? Mm-hmm. Dan McPherson, good mate of mine, Hollywood actor and doing incredible things. And what I loved about that was looking at the similarities between high performance sport and, being an entertainer at the highest level and the similarities of what it takes to become successful. But then also what I liked on that one was when he was talking about how to ground yourself, after being in character for so long.
That would be so hard.
Yeah.
Because you really have to probably ingrain yourself in order to project it, but also keep in reality.
Yeah. Come back to some sort of normality.
Yeah. I don't know how any of those guys keep it together.
Another episode, if you haven't listened to it, and it probably for a lot of triathletes, they might go listen to Dr. Ara Sapaya. That was special. His journey to become who he is, it was so fun and just inspiring in itself.
Very.
Yeah.
Very, very.
Dr. Joseph Maroon is another one. Dr. Dan Plews. All of those doctors they're all very smart guys. And there's so many takeaways from those episodes. I can't forget Ed Baker, who's now become a very close friend of mine, and we do a lot of work together. And the thing is with Ed Baker, both his episodes, it's one, you get to know him a little bit better in the podcasts. I fortunately have been able to get to know him beyond the podcast and sit in rooms and watch how his brain works at next level.
Mind.
Absolutely.
Brilliant.
Sometimes I forget that I'm meant to be contributing, that I just sit back and watch. Yeah.
Listening. What?
Like, wow. When you see Ed working, it's fantastic. Frank Shorter, he was special. That.
Lots of history there.
Yeah.
We caught up with him after
That's right.
that episode.
Yeah, we kept going.
It was really nice to hear some of his old school stories, names that popped up. Like my dad was a runner doing marathons for years, talking about Bill Rogers. He's one of the guys he used to run against. And it was really fun.
Yeah, that was kind of special because he is a bit of a big name, a legend.
A legend in running, for sure. Yeah. He's huge.
And then the Triathlon Gold episode when I got all 4 men, firstly, that had won all the 5 gold medals because Alice just won 2. And they all agreed. And I did that. I got those men on and recorded a show within 5 days of sending out the email saying, do you guys want to come on? And what was really cool about that was, firstly, it made me feel it made me feel nice that they'd be prepared to stop and come on. And it was kind of it was on the Tuesday. We recorded the episode the Tuesday before Jan did his world record Ironman against Lionel Sanders.
Oh yeah, okay.
So he was in final prep.
Yeah.
Hamish Carter was flying out the next day he was the high performance director for New Zealand to fly to the Olympics. Everybody had something, and yet they all took time to have, and there wasn't any restrictions on me. Greg, I've only got an hour. It was like,
The amount of feedback that you had on that.
Oh, yeah.
People love to hear.
Well, Christian Bloomfield said it in his post-race interview on the BBC.
Right.
He said,
listened to it.
He said, I listened to our podcast. Unfortunately, he didn't say it was, but he listened to the podcast on the Friday night before his Saturday race, or whatever, the night before his race. Christian listened to those four talk about what the Olympic gold, what it meant, how they won it,
Of course. And imagine that, like if you were there in that position. It'd be great to hear from the best.
I just thought, good on Christian for doing that, and then good on him for mentioning the show.
Good on you for pulling those guys together.
Yeah, but that was special. That one was
really nice of them to have done that.
Yeah, that one, big shout out to all of those guys. And yes, I did finally get not all the women on. I got the last 4 Olympic champions on. There was a few things that I've only got 1 hour. I think Gwen was gone right on the hour. I think there wasn't a goodbye. It was just. I think I had to record on Zoom because Nicola couldn't get the Zencaster, which I prefer to record on, to work. We made it happen.
Yeah, and trying to pull those women's schedule together is very tough. I mean, I kind of feel like sometimes any woman that has a child, it's impossible to get them to tie down. You just don't know. There's so many balls in the air.
But they're all outstanding human beings.
Yes.
They're not just
phenomenal women.
I left that episode going, wow, because they've all taken their gold medals and realized, maybe not right away, like Nicola even said, realized that there's a responsibility with that gold medal, that they are there now to bring the new generations in. They're an advocate for the sport. And they've all gone about it in their own ways, within their own communities and countries, to share their journeys, their stories with as many people as possible. And I really thought they were fantastic. And, Flora obviously was only a month or 2 in, but I think we've got another great Olympic champion with Flora.
Yeah.
So
I think bringing Nicola starting the kids racing. I mean, she did that. I think that was after that. Yeah, it was after a gold medal.
All the kid racing.
I mean, just starting the young.
They're amazing.
Being passionate about sport and self-awareness through sport, and it's pretty neat, their little group, what they pulled together for the success of their gold medal.
A unique group, wonderful people. And then finally, my last couple of episodes I've really enjoyed, getting Lucy Charles-Barkley finally on, and I'd even say we're friends now, but it took me a long time to get Lucy on, but
she was a well-oiled machine. She's got a great team around her, and it's well marketed, great athlete, passionate about what she wants to get done, and will give anything to do so, and then with her husband and her sister working on her team, probably more than that.
But she was also just so easy to interview. Like sometimes I'll come home to you and go,
I'm
kind of tired after that one. Other times I'm like, it was just, they were playful, or they had great stories, or they were ready.
The British are so entertaining.
Yeah, and the voices are kind of easy to listen to, aren't they? And then finally, another Brit. This week, Sam Renouf came on, the CEO of the PTO, the Professional Triathlete Organisation, and he's just brilliant, man. Very intelligent, knows how to share information through stories, which is never easy. And I just think what they're doing with the PTO is outstanding. So, there we go. There's my rundown. We were expecting one?
Yeah. Just a few make a mark, 20.
Yeah. Now, I did have that we would sort of reflect on our careers, but I think we've already done that somewhat throughout this episode. I don't think we need to dive into us anymore. Is there anything else that I have missed that you want to add, or we're pretty good here, I think?
No, I think we're pretty good. Hopefully entertaining enough.
Yeah.
Get you through a bike ride or a run.
Yeah. I guess what's next? Well, for me, 2022 is now here. I'll continue to be doing these podcasts, although I might have a couple of weeks of a few of my favorite episodes. I'll kind of remassage and have repeats just over the holiday season, just so I can spend some time with the family and have a little break, but that we will come back with new episodes sort of mid-January. I'll be working alongside, like I said, Ed Baker, doing some more work with AnyQuestion, building that app. Check that out. That's going to really be something amazing over these next months, and get on board early as an early adopter. I think you'll really enjoy it. And then I'll be doing some announcing with both Clash Endurance and hopefully, potentially with the PTO and their big events that they've just announced as well. And then hopefully getting to see you and my kids.
That would be nice. I'm not planning any more family trips until we know you can make it. No, it's all good. I'm spending a lot of time with the kiddos. It's a kind of a privilege, to be honest. It really is a privilege. It's nice to have 5-minute breaks every now and again. I think that's what you're down to instead of days or hours off. But the hard part is that you miss them when you're not with them. So it's
ridiculous.
It's
like,
kind of a...
Yeah, I just want to go. And then you're away. Like even the other night we had a date night. We went for a walk on the beach, right?
Yeah. Gone for a couple hours. And
and probably the second hour we talked about the kids.
I know.
Like, oh, come on.
I know. Pathetic.
Anyway, that's a wrap, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the show. I really did. I think this was kind of fun. It was a little bit different. It is a end of year wrap up for us. It is a celebration of 100+ episodes. It is of 2 years of doing the show. The show will continue. It might branch out a little bit more from being a bit triathlon heavy. That's not to say I won't still have predominantly a lot of triathletes on, because that's my passion and my background. And but the show will grow and expand. If you are enjoying the show, I'd love to hear from you and get your feedback. But for now, you can find the show notes, timestamps and coupon codes at bennettendurance.com/media. Laura, that was great.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Perfect. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks a lot for listening. If you enjoyed the show, your support would truly be appreciated. You can visit the Patreon page, or you can subscribe with your podcast app of choice. Don't miss the next episode, so subscribe and be notified. For show notes, if you want to know more, please visit bennettendurance.com. I'm Phil Liggett, and on behalf of Greg Bennett, here's to the next time, and I hope you will join Greg again very soon.